Yeah, I want to start
Your
streaming.
CBG buddy is not a big fan of Dave, and he's a big fan of this PFAA stuff.
What do you mean? Hold on one second. Let me make sure that you guys are okay. Number
Oh,
one.
what a lie!
Hopefully you guys are all right. And we're live. We're live on YouTube at least. Instagram, we live. We good? Can we hear
Did
us?
you put me horizontal just to make it all crotch again?
No, dude, that's how your
That's your
camera is set
phone.
up, bro.
Mm.
Can you hear us? Are you on it, Joe?
Yeah.
And we're good?
It says that it's still the tag from last time. Will CrossFit die without Dave Castro?
Oh, really? Okay. I'll change that right now. All right, guys. What is cracking? Welcome back to another live. We're right and you're wrong. Wrong. CrossFit. I don't know why it doesn't let me update the thing. It's definitely not my fault. It's the live's fault for sure. So just kidding. Dude, what's up, guys? How we doing?
Shaking. I'm good.
So,
It's good to be back.
oh, always 2-week hiatus. All good.
2-week hiatus. Yeah, that's okay. We'll be back at it normally. Just give us some time. So, all right. Yeah. So I was just kind of going off about CrossFit beforehand. Are we frozen on Instagram?
There seems to be some lag in YouTube.
Is there? Feeling the live control. Okay. All right, we're good. Let's just keep going. So we were just talking about CrossFit and some of the problems with programming and things of that nature, and people getting real pumped and problematic about it. Joe, what were you talking about right before we went live? I wanted to touch on that. Do you remember?
I think what was the topic per se? It
Was zone 2?
wasn't just zone 2. It was my brain's not firing.
Dude, yeah. Yeah. You guys ever do a workout? Or well, you have for sure. You know those workouts that you do and everything is sucked out of you? Like your brain doesn't work. All the lactate feels like it went to your brain. You're just brain
Okay.
fogged.
50 cal echo bike sprint.
Yeah, I did that in 37 seconds.
Now I gotta redo it.
I never did that. I'm just joking.
Oh,
No. What have you done it in?
52.
52 seconds?
52 seconds.
I feel like that's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, it was really good. And that took me about 52 minutes to piece my life back together.
Yeah.
Logan, have you
And
done
we,
that?
No.
I am curious
No.
though. I did do it on an echo bike with a windshield, and they do say that
Yeah, the fan. Yeah,
yeah.
That makes
I
it
am curious
harder
how
or what?
much.
makes it easier.
Yeah. So
Oh, really?
I don't want to do it, but I want to do it now separately with we do have two bikes that don't have the wind guard on,
Mm.
because if you do any road qualifiers, they don't let you have it on. So instead of taking it on, taking it off.
Do you think
So,
do all of your bikes have that at your gym?
12 of the 14 have a wind guard.
Really?
Yep.
Dude, Joe is balling.
That's the thing.
That's a good loan. That's a good loan you got.
It's not the 80 G's on other good stuff at Rogue. It's the wind guards for $14.
That,
Okay.
Yeah. Dude.
I don't love the turf tires, so I'll get the turf wheels upgraded on them, and then we'll really be crushing it as an
Yeah,
affiliate.
you must have a pretty good credit score to get that loan.
Yeah. You
Hell
do.
yeah, man.
I bet you he's going to go out and
PPP
get
money, just boom.
I don't have to pay that shit back. Oh, man. Are you going to get the Echo Rower?
I almost ordered one. I had access to the pre-order. I might get one. We'll see.
What do you think is different about it? What are they saying? All I noticed that was different was the wheels to transport it.
Quick release, the wheels, how it folds up. I hope that they did some work with the monitor to allow us to be able to program like descending calories in a pre-programmed workout. And I think it has that. Josh Bridges did a pretty in-depth review.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll have to look at
It's
that.
got these quick release things in the feet that seem like they would be like a much more efficient way to get in and out. Um, but again, it's still $900, so it's not like with it being I think $200 less. Like it doesn't make it like a crazy good deal. Where I'm just gonna go buy some to buy some.
Sure.
I mean, with us expanding, I mean, I have my head wrapped around the fact that it's probably gonna cost me 80 to 100 grand with everything we're doing.
Oh yeah, because you're moving you're moving buildings completely.
Yeah, they're building a 12,000 square foot building, so we're gonna go 10,000, and then it'll be the affiliate. The actual affiliate will be like 5,400 square feet. It'll have 30 squat spots, 30 rowers, 30 bikes, and then there'll be a separate 2,400 square foot, 24-hour. Have some more of the global gym stuff as well. And then I'll have like a key fob in and out, and then I'll still have all the access to like the sauna, cold plunge, showers and stuff, and they'll have like a bigger lobby.
Dude, I think that's so smart. And I personally, I think that so many gyms are missing out on having like bodybuilding equipment in their gym, like even hammer strength shit, right? Or leg curls, leg extensions, stuff like that. I think that it could be such a benefit to a CrossFit affiliate to have all that shit in there. And I don't know if it's because of like CrossFit purists or whatever that they just are like, no, we're only doing functional movements and we're not going to do rowing and we're not going to do bench press or whatever. But it's just like these little things that can up your game a little bit more.
For me, it all comes to spatial demand, like a leg press machine or a hack squat or like a stair climber. Like that, I would love to have them, but like I'm giving up a lot of like dollars in like functional space for what we do, right? Like, but where I see the value for us doing the 24-hour access and the more global gym stuff, it seems like at least half of my members have a membership to another like gym.
Hell yeah.
Like a global gym. And I was like, I really don't want you to have that. So
dude,
it might be like a
money, yeah.
Yeah, so I for like maybe even just a $20 or $25 add-on, they could just add the secondary side and then just 24-hour. So I think it'll be an easy way, and I think I'll actually be able to get some people that won't even be members of the gym and just exclusively use that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, so many, like a bunch of people, like what does an Anytime Fitness membership cost? $50 to $70, something like that.
Yeah.
So then if they could just knock it all out, like get classes via the CrossFit affiliate portion, and then they also get access to 24 hours if they want to, like, if they don't want to do CrossFit that day and they just want to go do bodybuilding stuff, why not?
Yeah. You want to hear something really wild?
Yeah.
I got quoted for a pool.
Like a pool?
Like a 2-lane Olympic pool.
How much was it?
It was like 80 G's.
That's it?
Yeah, it was a lot less than I thought it would be, which has actually made it far more tempting. It's not going to happen just because that from an upkeep and like I think just that expense is what pushes me away from it versus the initial spend and then what would be nice to have one, but I don't think the return is anywhere near worth it. It'd be cool. Right. I don't think there's barely any affiliates to have it, but
with the talk of a pool, okay. The talk of a pool. I'm not going to mention any names, but I saw yesterday somebody get fired up over another person saying basically for CrossFitters not to worry about swimming and not to worry about running. What are your guys' takes on that? And I'm talking about not the CrossFit athlete. I'm talking about your entry level to quarterfinals CrossFit athlete. Do you think that swimming and running should be on their radar, given you guys are both L1s, right?
Yeah. Then no.
Yeah, from a sports side, no. From a methodology standpoint, yes.
Okay.
It's not a part of the test we're going to take. We're not going to be exposed to that test, so why study for it?
So can you explain the other portion from a methodology standpoint?
The methodology suggests that we should have a broader range of fitness, and that should be actively participating in things that are outside of the norm. So that's where you get stuck in the constantly varied thing. That's like going on a ruck run or doing a trail run or hopping on a mountain bike. Like just doing some of those things to just diversify what your fitness looks like and putting your body through different things that'll kind of expose like, ooh, I was like really crappy at that. Maybe I should do it more, or I was really good at that. And then that's an easy way for me to get some fitness in that doesn't seem very like hard to do between the years.
Yeah. So I agree with you in terms of like, I think that people should always be like trying new things, you know, just to like spice it up or to get more active, things of that nature. But is it like, is it important, or could swimming or running, could something else take the place of those?
For a quarterfinals athlete or for an open athlete?
Quarterfinals or entry level athlete, like CrossFit, the methodology says that the person was fired up that another coach said, don't like, you don't need to swim or run as a quarterfinals athlete. It's unimportant. So basically what I take away from that is like, hey, if it's out of your way to go run and swim, like don't go run and swim. There's no point. Like it's not going to make you a better athlete just in general to go and do that stuff. And there's other ways that you can do it. And then he suggested like getting on a bike. A bike is the most like advantageous for how accessible it is. And a lot of like professional rowers use the bike as a crossover because of the way that the mechanics for rowing works. Bike is another good option, right? But then the person who was posting about this other, like calling this other person out, was basically like, that he basically said it was like retarded. Like, no, you should be going running and you should be going swimming. But if the whole point about CrossFit is just like generalized fitness, right? And like, I guess this is why I have such a big, like weird problem with CrossFit, is because like anything that you say no to, there's some sort of like caveat to it. There's some sort of argument for it or against it.
It is somewhat true, because you could literally put me on the two different teams of like argue one and argue the other, and I could probably argue both of them equally passionately.
Yeah.
To me, running is the most accessible form of fitness. So like,
Absolutely.
I try to push running at the gym, because if I can get the average member a little bit more comfortable with the idea of running more than a mile being like the end of the world, like I can always then say, hey, you do have a tool that's available to you any day you don't make it to the gym, that like, okay, if it's super cold out or shitty out, like that sucks. But you more than likely have the ability in 30 minutes go for a jog or a run or do some intervals, that wherever you are, like there's something you can do to try to push the needle that day that isn't just 100 burpees for time.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
I mean, yeah, no, CrossFit, like quarterfinal athletes, open athletes, they need to get good at what that is. You're not going to have swimming. You're not going to have running unless it's shuttle runs, right? So it's like, is it worth the squeeze to train that as well? Because if you're really trying to make it to the semifinals in the games, the time you have to take already to get good at quarterfinal workouts and even open workouts, depending on if they change or keep the percentage the same to get the quarterfinals, like, is it worth the time? Most people will probably say, oh, I'll just squeak in a run here. I'll squeak in a swim here. But is that time you could have been recovering, not going to intensity to get ready for another one? Like, I don't think it is.
Yeah. It's
and anyone
like,
that
go ahead.
Anyone that does typically swim, from the degree that I'm aware of, like it's usually like, oh, active recovery day on a Sunday, they go to the pool and they just get some laps in. Like there is no semblance of intensity. It's just them like being in the water to post that they went in the water that day.
Yeah, it's not even an active recovery workout. They turn in most of those CrossFitters don't turn it. They turn into an actual workout. You're right. People don't know that they actually need to stretch and warm up for a swim. Most people just get in the fucking water.
Yeah. Or just get a kickboard and do like technique work, like get your hips up and use your feet.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's up, Paulina? She said, what's up on YouTube? So now, because we're talking about that, because we're talking about intensity, another point of contention that was made was that this guy basically cited a study, and I went on and I just kind of looked at the abstract to see if there was any validity to what he was saying, this coach. And he goes, basically, this study looked at Swedish athletes. What kind of athletes was it? I forget. It was somewhere in Europe. Anyway. And it looked at intensity and like when you should you always be pushing intensely, or is there a time to like bring intensity down, all this stuff. Where do you guys sit on that? What do you think that CrossFit athletes need to constantly be pushing the boundaries and constantly be working in like high intensity, or is there a time and place to, like, one thing that I say often, this is just to like kind of guide the conversation, right? One thing that I say is that intensity is it's really subjective to a feeling that you have, right?
Yep.
However, there's ways that you can get better at expressing intensity. So like for a CrossFitter, right? One of my friends is like, I need to do more zone 2 cardio to get more fit because I'm sucking on these metcons. I'm like, I don't know if that's true. Zone 2 might help you out a little bit in terms of like breathing and where your resting heart rate sits at and things of that nature. But when things get intense, things are going to get intense regardless of if you have a good zone 2, threshold or not. The thing that I think that a lot of people should be doing is pulling back on the metcon intensity and learning how to do things unbroken slower. Because then they can ramp that up over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment where, like, the more simple the workout is, the more the ability to have intensity is solely on your will, right? And then it comes to the acquisition of skills that any workout can look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think intensity, I think it has to be there more times than not, though, personally, from the sport, because, again, you're training for workouts that are intense. You need to make sure your body is adapt to that more times than not, because once you lose that intensity for a week or two, like, you're going back to the drawing board on some movements and you're like, holy shit, why is my heart just racing and I'm not like in that comfort zone again? And it's always going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think going back to a video I think the Buttery Bros did, and they were at Matt Fraser's place back a while ago. And it was like he was showing his garage and he was like pointing at the C2 bike and he was pointing at something else. He's like, oh, I spend hours on that thing. Like, his need for that is way more than someone in a quarterfinals open spot or most athletes, because he has to put so much time in with an elevated heart rate in different zones in zone 2. Like, that's why he was so good. But then people see that and they're like, oh, well, I need to do zone 2. I need to do all this work. And it's like, no, I don't think you do. I think you just need to figure out how you hit intensity in certain workouts. But yeah, you should. I think you recover better too once you do more intensity. You learn how to recover. That's something people don't do. They don't get on a bike after and try and cool down for 5-10 minutes, which helps with how many times you're going at intensity in these workouts. But it shouldn't be like every piece, right? You're doing it multiple times a week though.
Yeah, so I guess that my argument is this. In like traditional strength and conditioning like models, right? You'd have a macro cycle, right? Do you guys know what that is? Okay.
Yes.
Big macro cycle, right? Well, I don't know, dude. I have no idea when I'm talking to like CrossFit coaches if they understand these terms, right? So there's macro, meso, or there's meso, macro, micro, all these things. So typically how something would go is you'd have like a ramp up stage, right? So you'd have like, okay, we're going to get acclimated to volume and we're going to figure out how much volume we need to have in order to make progress. That's this term of minimum effective dose, right? Which this guy, I'm just going to say it, Taylor Self said that there's another clip that I saw of him saying that like CrossFit does a really good job at expressing minimum effective dose and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, dude, I just don't know if you understand what minimum effective dose means, because that would require that you know what the maximum effective dose is. And that also requires that you have an onboarding of like minimum effective dose. The term was basically barred by Mike Israetel, right? Or not barred, but created by Mike Israetel. And then the expression of that was literally the minimum amount of work that you need to do in order to create adaptation and see progress. So I guess
CrossFitters tend to use that phrase though in the capacity of, in 60 minutes, we can get you in and out of the gym with a good workout like that.
Yeah.
It's like he's defining it differently as you are from a strength and conditioning standpoint versus just gen pop making you better with the least amount of time required to do that.
Yeah, I get that. However, the weeds get really muddy when you start trying to pretend like you can bend language however you want. You know what I mean? So like, and that's why I have like kind of an issue with all these like theoretical things that CrossFit talks about, is because I agree with you. CrossFit, you probably could figure out the minimum effective dose for people, and you'd probably have a better outcome than if you were just doing bodybuilding movements with like some sort of cardio. I totally agree with you. However, that would require a lot more than just having like a class workout with somebody and being like, hey, you're going to do the same workout. We're going to scale it, blah, 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 blah. So I understand what they mean, but I don't think that it's quite there with the explanation. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. So I'll explain kind of how I program.
Yeah.
in macro, meso, micro. So like I'll look at my like macro, right? That's probably like a 3-month block, and that'll have like the overarching like whatever strength bias, whatever we're trying to do, whether it's just back squat, front squat, Olympic lift, whatever. And then I'll shrink it down to maybe like 4-week blocks and then week by week. When I program, I have week to week things look pretty similar. Some members hate it and some members love it. I do a lot of percentage work, but that's because, again, with my gym, for whatever reason, the 130 members that we have are in very regular, like 4 to 5 days a week. So I'm getting the data week by week when I'm reviewing scores and like using some of the resources like that Wodify has, that I can kind of look at like how well we're hitting percentages, how often we're maybe not, like what percentage of my member bases are RXing and not RXing. Like I can use that data to then periodize like more appropriately. If you don't have a gym that is, I'll say flat out, as dedicated as mine or as consistent as mine, yeah, it is almost impossible, and you're just throwing darts at a dartboard. So I can speak for me, and I can speak for how things work at my end and like why I do it, like it or not. Like I at least know what I'm going off of.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't speak to any other affiliate, and even my mom, who still will teach like body pump classes at it's called the Recplex, the big gym in town. She is her L1, but one of the head trainers was staff in class and we're like, oh, we're going to make it really CrossFit-y. One of the classes they're offering, it's like 1 day a week. And I'm like, CrossFit is kind of anything, but I was like, how on earth do you program a CrossFit class 1 day a week? And I was like, there's definitely nothing that's going to be cohesive. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah. First, I agree with that. So real quick, like bringing it back to the intensity thing, right? So like the macro, the meso, all this stuff, right? So generally there'd be like this onboarding, ramping up of like volume, making sure that you're making the proper adaptations. You're sticking to certain movements for like anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks, however long it takes. Then you might be adding in a little bit of intensity protocols, right? So you might be like, okay, we're going to do I don't know, maybe a drop set or something to kind of just like give another stimulus or some shit, whatever.
Yeah.
You can use intensity protocols, whatever intensity protocol you want. And then it would be like a hypertrophy block probably, right? So like anywhere between 6 to 20 reps or 8 to 20 reps, let's say, just for the sake of argument. And then after that 12-week block is done, okay, we're going to start doing an adaptation phase so that we can like get more into a power cycle. And then so you start doing power stuff. And then after that, it's like, again, we're going to go, okay, it's a strength cycle. Now we're getting closer to season. So what do we have to do? We have to ramp up the cardio. You've probably done some sort of, at least maintenance levels type of cardio, or maybe even skill acquisition for like sports, which could be like footwork or, agility type stuff, so that, all the ligaments and tendons are used to change of direction, things like that. Now we're going to get into our intensity block, which is what we're going to do to enable you to peak for your season so that you perform at your highest, so that you perform at your best. So my whole point there is that in general, what sports do is they don't train intensely year round because of a few reasons. It's not progressive, and you will not progress if you're constantly working in intensity domains, right? Like if you're constantly pushing your threshold, there will be a negative effect to it. There has to be. Physiologically, your body cannot keep up with that. Now, again, intensity is subjective, and there's different ways to push intensity. So like you may be somebody that can recover from air bike really well or whatever. So you can like keep that in so that you have something that's intensity, whatever you want to deem as intensity for you.
Yeah.
You can keep that in, but it can't mess with your strength work. Do you get what I'm saying? So like,
100%.
You kind of have to be
with other sports
though.
With other sports, though, like they can't have intensity all the time because the way that their training is so narrow, being sport specific. We can have more intensity because what I'm doing today and what I'm doing tomorrow are going to demand different energy systems and muscle groups, and different things like that. So I can hammer today and hammer tomorrow with intensity. Again, there's degrees that's relative. But because what we're doing has that push, the pull, the push-pull, the mixed modal, like there's enough variance in it that like I should be fresh enough to give it about everything I have. Occasionally on Thursdays, I'll put a protocol. It's like, man, if you feel beat up, like let's take it down a little bit. But that's my take again from a CrossFit standpoint. If I was training for something like track, no, you cannot do sprints like all out every day or run, a mile super hard. Like you need to have paces. You need to have reduced intensity to just give your time under like enough time.
I mean, so going back, so like going to the method of like your cycles, right?
Yeah.
So there will be intensity, I think, in most programs when they have a testing phase in the beginning too. So you're already having a possible max out testing of what you need to get after for the cycle. And then because what Joe was saying, like the sport is unknowable. So you have to almost train at a certain intensity higher than a normal sport because they know their outcome. They know they need to run whatever it is on a football field for a touchdown. Like they know the sport specific and what they need to get out of it and type of training where they can tailor it better. We don't. So it's like, it's super hard, especially with competitions that people need to do, especially your quarterfinal athlete or open athlete, whatever it is. Like you're doing competitions year round normally, not just in a certain season anymore.
Yeah.
Just to see where you're at, because that's kind of how you stack yourself up.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead, keep going.
And then on top of that, it's almost like following a conjugate method where you're maxing out almost every week on a different movement, but you're still finding a max, which is a high intensity, right? So.
So we're all agree with you guys.
I got to pull a Brent and get more water. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Isn't that what we just said too?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just said
so that. I got mine on me.
Yeah. I like this. This is a good conversation. I got a lot to add to that for sure. So I'm gonna wait for Joe to get here so that he argues with us. Joe, we can hear it.
I can hear it.
It sounds like you're peeing.
I didn't say what I'm filling. Did I say water? I was just saying I was filling it up. Call me Patches O'Houlihan. Oh, that's tasty.
Okay, so going off of what you just said, Logan. So yeah, I agree with you. And what I will agree with you on that specifically is that intensity and the ability to work through intensity and the ability to stay in that zone is a skill. So a CrossFitter probably needs to understand how to do that, right? And the same way that you talk about conjugate, I did conjugate for probably 7 years, right? The reason that conjugate is so good is because, or so good at what it's so good at, is because it's teaching you the skill of maxing out and it keeps you there. So it's never unfamiliar to you, right? And so you're making neurological adaptations that keeps you able to be able to do that 1 rep max thing. So for example, there's a lot of people out there that can squat 315 for 8 reps for like 3 sets, 4 sets, whatever you want to say. But as soon as you put 365 on the bar, when they try to move it for 1 rep, they're like, oh my gosh, dude, this feels like I'm squatting the world, right? And that's because they have not acquired the skill or the neurological adaptation in order to be able to move load very forcefully and quickly. So they're not able to express the intensity that's required in order to move that 1 rep max. Now with CrossFit, I agree with you guys. It's very important for a CrossFitter to know, but I think that if you want to get better specifically at the sport of CrossFit, it cannot always be intensity. You can't obviously intensity is the thing that you need to know how to do. We all know that. We all know that you have to be able to get to that point where you black out and all this stuff, right? But then it's like, at what expense? So if you're somebody who is not very strong, or if you're injury prone, or if you're somebody who doesn't have a big aerobic base, so like an engine or whatever, taking every Metcon that you have, or even like 75% of Metcons that you have, balls to the wall, all year round is probably not a good idea for you. There's going to be a lot of problems with that. So you take a Metcon, you take all Metcon, 75% of them, balls to the wall. Number one, you are risking injury. I don't care how varied it is or what anybody else says to you. The higher intensity that you're working out, always, it could be Zumba or anything. The higher intensity that you are working out, the higher probability for injury you have. It's just true. Number two, oh my gosh, dude, I almost just like lost my train of thought. So again, if you're somebody that needs to work on strength and you're tearing yourself up, the problem with conjugate and the problem with constantly varied is that your body cannot make the appropriate adaptations to volume during certain movements. So certain movements will make you more sore. So let's say that you haven't done a dumbbell snatch in 4 weeks. And now suddenly a workout has you do 50 dumbbell snatches. You're going to be tore up, dude. And what if you have to do back squats at 80% the next day? You're probably not going to perform as well. Do you guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So one thing I'll interject with is I would say the number of times I go balls to the walls in a workout, I would say is probably 20-ish a year.
Sweet. Okay.
Like
good.
what I'm saying is like Fran, an echo bike sprint, acid bath. Like these things have to be so short for something that we are so confident in. Dumbbell snatch, double under workout. Like it would be something that like we'd have to be so good at.
Yep.
The average CrossFitter does not get to go balls to the wall very often because they lack, as we're talking about, the skills or just the willingness to do it. Like Colton just talked about it on, I think it was last Sunday.
Yeah,
when we finished up NorCal Classic, where Colton basically said, like, I now can train at the level of intensity I used to compete with 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's like it's a learned progression of like, honestly, it's super mental. Being able to trust like how far you can push yourself in the deep end before like everything goes sideways. Mm-hmm. But again, like intensity, when we say intensity, I don't view intensity as balls to the wall. Right. I view intensity as like, I'm really going to push this upper limit, like right where that line is, but I'm really doing my absolute best not to step over that line.
Dude, that's a phenomenal point that you just made in terms of arguing for CrossFit, because the language needs to be defined. How do you quantify intensity, right? And how do we quantify it? And so you have a different opinion on what intensity looks like compared to what my outlook on intensity looks like, right? So I think that it's interesting because we have these discussions and talks, and like, dude, I care about CrossFit in the sense that I think that it's probably the modality, right? I've talked to you about this. I think it's probably the modality that most people should do. It's highly accessible, the most bang for your buck in the amount of time that you can have. But I don't think that it's superior for a lot of the reasons that CrossFitters think that it's superior, right? I just think that, whatever, we don't have to get into that. But so defining what intensity means, but the argument too was like, don't tell CrossFit athletes, like pro athletes, what they should be doing because intensity is the name of the game. Okay, yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think that we all.
And the pro athletes, if you watch them train, honestly, their programming looks so un-CrossFit-y. Their buckets where they're putting time in is in strength and it's in conditioning. Like they have all the skills, so them to do couplets and triplets is stupid. In the capacity of they need to make sure they're getting reps, and like you said, so they're doing a shit ton of dumbbell snatches and burpee box rollers that they like don't blow their backs out, right? They need to have enough movement awareness. But like the elite, they're living on a C2 bike and they are squatting and they're deadlifting and they're doing the like Olympic lifts. That's the bulk of what they're training like. It is not Fran. It is not. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
secondly,
I
have a real quick thought that I'm willing to do. Whatever it is, what it is. I think I'd be happy to have you pick apart my programming. Like I will put my gym's programming out, and we could like look at like the 3 month or 2 month or 1 like week to week block where you'd be like, why are you doing this? And then it would be an opportunity to have a conversation of being like, I look at this way, and then you'd be like, this is absolutely counter to everything that is actually good in strength conditioning. Like you're an idiot, or you can be like, okay, I think some affiliates do have a decent wrangle on this.
I think that would be a really good concept. Now, what you're saying, though, I agree with wholly and completely, and I have full confidence that you're probably doing the right things in terms of building strength and stuff like that, just from the way that you're speaking, right? But the thing that I struggle with CrossFit and programming and stuff is the metcons and the constantly varied, right? There's all this talk about volume. Can you guys define to me what volume means for CrossFit?
Volume and just being able to increase the amount of work you can do without feeling too beat up.
Okay.
Yeah, and with volume, like they do it in Mayhem all the time, where they'll do a workout, but it'll be sneaky reps where it'll be like 8 rounds of something at low reps, but over those 8 rounds, you're accruing so much volume at the end of it. But you're able to go at certain intensities.
Are there any parameters by which you guys define volume, though?
Parameters in which I define.
Like, what is volume defined by? Definitionally, what is volume? Do we know?
Quantity of something.
Hold on. Yeah. So wait. This will be easier. Use a sentence with volume in it for CrossFit.
This training block is going to have a lot of volume of toe to bar or midline.
Cool. Okay, perfect.
Demand.
Great. All right. So how are you going to get somebody's capacity for toe to bar higher? What do you do with the volume?
It would slowly increase.
Slowly increase it. Okay, perfect. Sweet. So that's great. So now my question is, my problem with the volume talk in CrossFit is this, right? Okay. How do you adapt to volume?
By doing it over and over again.
Right.
At intensities.
By doing what over and over again?
The movement you're calling whatever is volume.
Yes. The same thing over and over and over again, right? That's how you make an adaptation to volume.
Right, but when there's so many different movements to maximize volume, you have to start with your weaknesses.
I agree with you.
And that's why CrossFit always says linear progression, right? And that's why we say that we aren't going to get you way stronger in your back squat and your deadlift like in CrossFit. It's yes, it will increase. No, it's not as much as something that's more specific, but you should be able to improve your deadlift, improve your back squat, improve your mile time, improve your max pull-up set.
Right.
Whatever, yeah.
So my question though is, if things are supposed to be like, let's go traditional CrossFit. Things are supposed to be constantly varied functionally, right? You might not see toe to bar in 5 weeks. How do you get better at doing toe to bar?
You do movements like the V-up.
sit-ups.
Yeah, V-ups, GHDs.
Yeah,
You break down toe to bar. Like I know you're trying to get the neurological like dump of what that movement of a toe to bar is.
Yep.
But I mean, you have to break it down too. You need grip strength. You need core strength.
Totally. But that isn't always transferable. Do you get what I'm saying? So like,
100%.
It could be because, but toe to bar is skill acquisition as well, right? So like the CrossFitters at the top level aren't doing 75 unbroken toe to bar just for the sake of they can do 150 in a workout. It's because they've built up enough skill to be able to do 75 toe to bar unbroken. And they also have adapted to volume in order to be able to do that over time. So now the pro CrossFitter probably has at least touches that are undulated between different weeks, right? So like they might not see in their program, they probably do GHD 1 week, toe to bar the next week, GHD or V up the next week, toe to bar, but there's touches at least every couple weeks. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
This conversation of volume and constantly varied to me, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of volume this month or whatever. Yeah. Well, have we heard the term junk volume too? So you're just doing a bunch of like constantly varied things for no reason without intention behind it. So this is where I get into this topic of like, okay, they say constantly varied and it needs to be intentional. Where's the intention? What does constantly varied mean? If we're going to talk about conjugate and undulated periodization or things like that, this is a whole different conversation now because conjugate, at least we're doing some sort of bench press every single week. We're just changing the what's it called? The bar that we're using or whatever it is. It's not the same when you're undulating between V up and toe to bar for the simple and then you're also going to do farmer's carry the same day that you're doing V up because it's not the same skill. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
But yeah, but that's a sport, right?
What?
Like that is like there is so much to do for volume in regards to that where junk volume is almost like
it's needed in CrossFit basically.
Needed and inevitable.
Yeah.
Because you have to kind of touch upon every movement here and there. Like the amount of people that are on like a mass programming platform, right? Yeah. I doubt they actually follow everything in that platform because they're jumping in the class workouts, they're jumping into something else, they're doing somebody else's workout, whatever it is. Yeah. So they're not necessarily getting what they need out of the program or reading the notes on like how to go at the workout.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
And that's most of your open quarterfinal athletes, not people who are just doing the open, but people that want to get better in it. They're probably following more of a mass programming, mayhem, proven, etc.
Yeah.
But then they see the leaderboard, and there's the mental aspect of it. They see a leaderboard and they're like, I gotta get better than that guy, or I want to be better than this. So they go harder, or they do it a different scaled version, but don't say they did scaled, etc. There's so much more garbage in that like mindset of seeing it. If you don't have a good mindset going into as an athlete, that's why those guys are so much better, because they follow a program to a T for the most part, and they're getting what they need to out of it.
I guess
as much as CrossFit is constantly varied, it's unbelievable how much value is in consistency. Like I believe that my programming is very good for my affiliate, my member base.
Well, wait,
right?
hold on, Joe. Let me just interject real quick on that, okay?
Yep.
I 100%. So, like Logan, what you just said, I agree with you totally, right? However, I would say that those are the exception, not the rule, right? And Joe, you're also the exception, not the rule. CrossFit is the rule. So CrossFit HQ or whatever, the people who design the CrossFit protocol, CrossFit modality, right? And then Logan following Mayhem or whatever it is, that's the exception. There's a bunch of different like camps that are the exception. There's different affiliates that are the exception, but that doesn't make the rule, right? And even if the 95% of affiliates now are pivot to linear periodizations, undulated periodizations, all these different things, that still is exception to the rule, right? Because the book of CrossFit says otherwise. That makes sense?
Yes. But the beauty is that we don't have to subscribe to it so religiously.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. I don't think you should. But my problem becomes when the defense of the CrossFit methodology is such that, well, there's other CrossFit gyms that are doing it well. Well, hold on. Does that even count as the CrossFit methodology anymore? This is where language is weird.
Yeah, I agree.
You guys do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Okay.
I think you're starting to see, I think just by us talking about it, I think we are way more on the same page.
Yeah, I do
and
too.
It just comes down to, again, semantics and just stupid word choices that get people all bent out of shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It gets me freaking bent out of shape.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I'm very big on words. Like I say it all the time with members. They'll say stuff and I'm like, guys, words, like these things have definitions. And if we use, like, my back hurts, and I'm like, okay, what do you mean by your back hurts? You're sore and tight? Yeah. I'm like, that is not hurt. Hurt, I think, is synonymous to injury. And that is something I don't want to hear from a member, right? If you're like, oh, my back's really sore, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. We did a bunch of deadlifts yesterday and dumbbell snatches, whatever. Like, yeah, you're gonna be feeling that.
I'm super with you on that too. Yeah, I have people that say that same exact thing. My back hurts. What does that mean? Well, it's just really sore. Like, don't tell me that, dude. I'm gonna tell you to go. Like, I'm gonna say that we need to pull back or whatever.
Yeah.
But if followed correctly, I really do think that you can push your body multiple times a week to a really hard effort and a really hard intensity, right? Where you may be on the ground a couple times of the week, but there's like these peel back curtains you have to look at. Is that person taking themselves as an athlete and recovering? Yeah. Like if you are, that's the adaptation you need, is how hard you pushed yourself, or how many times you were on the ground or whatever it was after the workout, which is sometimes I find myself doing that more times than not. Is like, oh, damn, I went to my knees at the end and I'm breathing, but it's like, okay, I know what I need to do after that. I'm going to give myself like 3 minutes. I need to get up on a bike. I need to do this or whatever it is. That's lost in the sauce. So I think like Taylor saying that you need to be putting yourself on the ground a lot of times a week if you want to be good in the sport, or if you want to like have any kind of like say in the sport to push yourself forward. Like, it's true to a point of, are you also taking care of your body and you know what you're doing with it? Like, are you following the program to get to that point? Or you're just doing random shit where you're trying to get to an intensity, which most people probably think of when they think of CrossFit. They think, oh, I don't need to be on the ground every single time I go to a dark zone. To be at the level of those athletes, you need to go to a dark place a lot of times.
I agree with you. And I think probably more times than not. However, I think it looks different per where they are in the season, right? So like if you're in your off season, you're probably touching that every so often. And by
what off season though? What?
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, that's changing a lot for sure right now.
What they would define as their off season, right? Between CrossFit Games and the Open. Forget if they want to do Rogue or all these other whatevers, that's like kind of up to them. But I think that, yeah, if you were to take a proper off season, like from CrossFit Games until the Open and whatever, then yeah, they're probably still going to touch that place. They're probably still going to touch the dark zone. You can't say it in any good way. They're probably going to go to that place at least a couple times a week, or like a couple times every couple weeks or something like that, so that they stay familiar with that. I agree with that. Do you agree with that? But like, but doing that once a day.
Again, definitions are super important. The way I look at it, not all workouts you're physically capable of going to the dark place, because you're going to be limited by strength and local muscle endurance. And so it takes loading being light enough or reps being big enough for certain things to really push that upper limit. Like I can program deadlift and handstand push-ups in different ways that, like, this workout with deadlift and handstand push-ups, I'm going to have to absolutely go to a dark place to like get the score I want. Or it's like, okay, the reps are going to go up by, I got 225 deadlifts and 3 handstand push-ups. They're going to go up by 3s, and we got a 12-minute AMRAP. Like, I'm going to get bottlenecked by my ability just to deadlift, and there is no dark place. It's just really uncomfortable trying to do more deadlifts.
Yeah, for sure. Logan, you sound like you wanted to say something.
No, I'm good. It sounds good, yeah.
But if it's deadlifts and bar-facing burpees, and that maybe say the weight is even at 225, right? That gets a little bit more potent in the capacity of, like, it's just so it's going to be a will thing to see if I want to pick up this deadlift and push on these burpees.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you make a good point by, definitionally what does intensity mean and whatever. Because also, does that mean like year round in a Metcon, the games athlete should be using 405 on a deadlift regularly and during a workout, or what does that mean? You know what I mean? I would agree with, like, no, like, there's other ways to get there that aren't so systemically fatiguing that your CNS can't recover and stuff. So like, instead of 405, 315, it could be like even 185 for the games athlete, but have them do like 50 reps or something, because that's just localized soreness rather than a systemic fatigue.
CompTrain would always very openly say that they don't program deadlifts very much at all, because it is such a CNS taxing event. Yeah. And so, like, you would see Matt, you would see Katrin, you would see Cole Sager. Like, a lot of their athletes had poor deadlifts comparatively, and that Bergeron would say flat out, like, we're going to give up some points here on any workout that's got deadlift, because when we have our athletes deadlift, it takes away from so many other things that we're not moving the whole ship far enough forward.
Yeah, but where's CompTrain at now?
Well, no, trust me. Well, I agree that is not the best. That's more of a C-suite and trying to get too big for your britches thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would argue that you need to do the deadlift then. If you're giving up points,
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying is someone's train of thought that aligns with that.
I don't know that deadlift in and of itself is more taxing on the nervous system than maybe a clean is.
Well, sure, because it's basically
it's just
part of it.
Right. It's just an interesting concept that he would say that, and like, I think that, well, I mean, the difference, I guess, would be that you can probably handle more load for more reps on a deadlift than you could. So never mind. I take back what I was saying. What do you guys think about this idea that CrossFit is or is not more injurious than other sports?
No.
You don't think so, Logan?
Well, the topic is like, we're never going to get anywhere.
No, we're all generalists. Like,
yeah.
You're a generalist. Like, you're not, if you're too good at endurance, you're lacking in something else.
Yeah. So you guys think that it's probably not more injurious?
I'd say when you look at a population of people, like we were looking at the VO2 maxes the other day from the test we did, and it says we're in the superior. But then I looked at the dude and I was like, come on, like, I'm not in a superior range when you're defining these. He's like, oh, no. So there's also superior, like, light and superior heavy or whatever it is. I'm like, okay. So there's a difference to that. Like,
to how superior
he's like,
you are
based off of like the general population. I'm like, okay, well, General population, sure. I go run a mile. Most people aren't going to be able to run a mile at a certain, maybe the 9-minute mile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Most people can't run a mile.
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah. I just did it like I told you guys last night. Or I didn't tell you this last night, but I told you this today that I am going to do a podcast with somebody else. Not gonna announce who or yet.
Cheating on us.
Yeah. But forget it. Tanner Shuck, right? I'm gonna do something with Tanner Shuck. And so I was just kind of doing quick Google searches on like CrossFit, the literature on CrossFit, and there's basically zero. There's like almost no literature on CrossFit. It's actually kind of crazy how there's no literature on CrossFit. But one of the things that I did look at was what's it called? Injury incidents in CrossFit. And it seems to be that it's like not really any more injurious than other sports, like when it compared to weightlifting and powerlifting and all this stuff. However, it didn't differentiate between CrossFit as a sport and CrossFit as a modality.
Right. There's not enough data. Even with the case that they did with Ohio State, they weren't even really defining what injured was. Like they were taking participants that just stopped doing the program as injured.
Yeah, and so basically, yeah, that's kind of the point that I was going to make too. Is like, it was what are those called? It was basically like, whoa, what is
Sample
that called?
size?
Like a form you fill out. What is that called?
Intake form?
They basically they just ask people, have you done CrossFit? Did you get hurt? Right. That.
Yeah, and the average person that everyone thinks they've done. Well, I agree. Again, I would agree both sides. I feel like everyone has done CrossFit because everyone has gone for a run and everyone's done some burpees at some point in their life. But like, it's very different when people are like, "Oh, I work out of the gym." Like, I've done CrossFit. It's like,
yeah,
you have not done power cleans and handstand push-ups and double unders. Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. What do you guys think about? Is strength a barrier to entry for CrossFit?
1,000%.
Yeah, 100%.
Why?
Because you have to have enough of it to be able to, again, pull back limiters.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can knock weight down. Like, that's the whole point of scaling and modifying workouts to achieve the stimulus for everyone. But, like, you have to be strong enough to play the game. Otherwise, it's not worth playing.
Back to the beginning of the conversation, you're going to see a 1-rep max movement in a quarterfinal workout, possibly, or a 2-rep max or a complex. You're not going to see a swim. You're not going to see a run. Like, that's what you have to get better at is overall strength, because that's going to move you thousands of spots on a leaderboard for 1 pound.
Yeah. You're not going to have a single modality. Like, you're not going to have 100 shuttle runs for time or 100 total bar for time. Or even, I would love to see a 2-part workout in the open that was like you do whatever AMRAP or whatever, and then it goes into, you have 2 minutes max set or whatever of like bar muscle ups. I would love to see a test that demanded instead of a 1-rep max clean, it's 2 minutes max bar muscle ups.
That would suck.
Yeah.
That would hurt bad.
But we only test in isolation strength.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be really cool. Okay, so then to go from there, because one of my arguments was that strength is the barrier to entry for CrossFit. Literally the barrier to entry. Okay. And he said that it's not. It's one of the 10 skills or whatever that CrossFit talks about. That could be your.
That is also true.
However, you need just baseline living. You need to be strong enough to live, right? You need, and this might be semantics, but I think it's important in a conversation like this. And these are things that like people need to get right about CrossFit in order for it to be pushed to the masses, right? You literally need to be strong enough to scale a workout. You need to be strong enough to do a burpee. You need to actually be strong enough to go for a jog. Like everything comes down to strength. And then his argument is aerobic. Like you need to be aerobically fit to live a longer life. Well, you need to be strong enough to do aerobic exercise to live a longer life.
Yeah.
So you're saying strength isn't necessarily the weight moved? You're saying strength isn't the weight moved anymore? Again, like defining what is strength. Are you saying strength is limiters of like ligament strength or like muscle strength? And
100%. I would say that strength could be defined just by your ability to do anything. Right. So like,
yeah. And I think that's what Rip and Toe and Shuck really live and die by. Like that's the ethos that they really want to hammer home. But like we said, I feel like strength is, you need to be strong enough to play the game. Like that's your barrier to entry. But in CrossFit, capacity is king.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Yeah. But again, right, you need to be strong enough to play the game. Yeah. You've said it.
Yeah, that's why the Olympic lifters are so good at CrossFit, because how long does it take? They already adapted to the strength and movement, which is the technical, some of the hardest parts of CrossFit is a snatch, right?
Yeah.
Doing it for reps and reps and reps. And that's something they drill every other day or every day when they're training that. Yeah. It doesn't take that long for them to get used to that in a Metcon or an AMRAP or an EMOM.
Well, and you know what the other benefit of strength training that it has compared to what just aerobic training has, right, is that you do make actual cardiovascular adaptations and aerobic adaptations just by doing strength work, right? Yeah. So like your heart literally pumps better as a pump. You get a cardio workout. It might not be like going for a run, but your pulmonary system is also involved in that. Like all these little intricate details are in fact like worked with strength training and not the opposite way around. Now you could say that some runners have like a genetic predisposition to like getting big legs or, cyclists or whatever like that, but it doesn't necessarily work both ways. You know what I mean?
If done correctly, following like a 90-second rest right into the movement. Like if you're waiting too long and your body gets too cool, like you're not getting the adaptation that you want out of it. That's why it's going to take so much longer, and why people are frustrated because they don't want to get uncomfortable in a lift doing a 5x7 back squat and only getting 45 seconds of rest in between.
Yeah.
They want to sit there and talk to their homie and then, a minute and a half. Fuck, I got to go, man. Like I got to hit the next rep.
Yeah. I mean, shit, I don't want to stop talking to my homie during the middle of a strength session.
I'd be like, why are you talking to me? My strength session.
Yeah.
Get away from me, you idiot.
Awesome.
Yeah, but you're built different. You're trying to get to the games eventually, aren't you, Logan?
On a team. Yeah, that's my new way of life. I'd like to, there's barriers to entry for that, right? You got to like find a team first. Yeah. And then I got to get through quarterfinals and semifinals. So like, cool. The game is all the way down there, but like there's so many different levels to it.
Where do you feel like your limiters? Like what's keeping you right now?
Logan's good.
I would say,
what's your clean? What's your snatch? And what's your 17.5?
How big is your snatch?
Snatch is 257. Last one I hit.
Okay.
For one rep, 350 for a clean and 345 clean and jerk, 350 clean.
Yeah.
Wow.
But but again, like I think a lot of it is grip endurance during workouts. Like we have Fight for the Fitness coming up, and we're doing like a local team from our gym, and it's a DT workout, but in between it's like one partner pair, male female, does 12 toes to bar and then a round of DT together, synchro. The other pair is doing 20 cals on the rower, 20 cals on the bike erg.
Damn.
Of course, like we had 5 rounds of it, so I did 3 rounds on the rower just because as a male, it's easier for me to get that 20 cals faster, rest more. My grip strength was gone. Like trying to power clean or hang power clean multiple times, my grip was gone. That's something I've been trying to work on, is grip endurance and grip strength, because I think that's a huge factor in CrossFit that people kind of overlook. And then I don't know. I got a lot to work. There's always something to work on. I don't know. It's overhead endurance for sure. Shoulder overhead endurance, and gymnastics can always be better.
How tall are you?
With my boots on, 5'10".
Boots on? Are you working out in boots?
No.
He better.
About 5'9.5" ish.
Yeah.
And you're like 220, aren't you?
No, I was. I started working with CBG. Nice. I was 220 in December for I think maybe like 7 months or so when I was in Kansas.
Damn.
I was eating a lot of meat. I was eating a lot of food.
5'9", 220, homie. Holy crap!
It's a big
Yeah,
boy.
no, I'm down to 207 right now. Thank you, Brooke. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, down to 207. I'm trying to get around like a sweet spot of like 198 to 205, kind of stay within there.
Yeah.
Because I feel good there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you feel still just as strong and like everything's all together?
Man, everything felt good at 220. It was so nice. But then obviously I didn't want to like push in the intensity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a Metcon was way different. I just felt like sluggish because I think where I was holding my weight, it wasn't helping, and my fat percentage was higher for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I believe
Fraser would always say for his
9%. Go ahead.
Fraser would always say when he was heavier, the biggest place he felt it first was grip endurance and his like how much his hands tore. When he was heavy, his like everything grip wise was so much more like any gymnastic pulling. Like that's where he felt where you became limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I definitely felt really rough on the rings or on a bar muscle up or chest to bars. I don't know why. It felt wild. But now, I mean, with the training, with losing some weight too, and body fat percentage, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, I need to find a team first. That's the thing.
Upper body pulling, what can you do for like max sets of like chest to bar muscle ups?
I haven't really done max set chest to bar in a while, but if I had to like shoot it, I'd say like 35 chest to bar max set.
Okay. Yeah.
That's good.
And then what would you say after that? Pull ups?
Like no bar muscle ups, like max set.
Max set probably somewhere in the low 20s. Yeah. I've done 15. I've done 15 to 18 before in a workout where it was like the end of the workout, just hold on. So I can probably get somewhere in the low 20s fresh.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
But again, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I still have a full-time job, which most people do. And I'm training early in the morning and then a little bit in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Logan and I competed with each other at Pensacola Beach Brawl.
Yeah, back in the day.
4 years ago.
Three, 4 years ago. Yeah, it was a cool event.
It was. I was supposed to be there next weekend. In 2 weekends? 2 weekends?
Something like that. Yeah, they had a snatch complex there. It was, I think it was a hang snatch,
full
snatch, overhead squat.
Yeah. What'd you get?
Yeah, 250.
You did 250?
Yeah, the adrenaline was pumping.
Wow.
I don't know what it was. We had my coach and I at the time. I had an individual coach, and we were hammering the snatch leading up to that workout. I don't work with him anymore. I follow basic programming, but we were hammering snatch complexes leading up, and it just happened to be that it was like the same thing we were doing in training.
That's wild, dude.
So I got really lucky with that one.
That's a big snatch complex.
Yeah, we have the same thing for Fight for the Fittest. It was like, I think it's the same thing. Yeah, it's like hang snatch, overhead squat. I think it's the same, actually the same. So, but I don't know if I'd hit the same thing because again, this is a different type of like setup for the workout. You only have like a minute to hit it, different than what we did. But we'll see. Damn. Should be fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, boys, what else? What else you got for me, Joe? Any news?
I got 5.
I got like 5 too, and then I gotta get out of here.
News? No, I feel like things have kind of gotten stagnant in the space of like everything's still nothing. We haven't gotten anything new really, with everything going on.
Yeah,
the
dude,
Rogue qualifier just finished.
Yeah, Colton, dude, did you see Colton? He did the NorCal Classic or whatever it was. Is that what it was? NorCal Classic.
Shit, final workout.
Yeah. You didn't see it, Logan?
Dude.
Logan?
No, I've been so behind on that stuff right now.
Dude,
that
was
is one of the most
thrusters.
Beautifully programmed, terrible workouts I've ever seen.
Yes, 100 thrusters at 135.
3-ring muscle up buy-in.
Wait, what?
It was basically the workout Kalsu with 3-ring muscle ups every minute.
Tell him what it was. Or wait, do you know what
that is? I don't know how much. I don't.
No.
So Kalsu is a terrible, terrible hero workout. That's 100 thrusters at 135.95. Every minute on the minute, you got to do 5 regular burpees. Terrible. I probably done it like 3 or 4 times.
So they did 3 ring muscle ups. And how many minutes did he get
after like
into?
after a 5 minute block, I think it dropped to 2, and then after like the 9 minute mark, it dropped to 1. But still,
What he
Colton
finished
was
in?
the only one to finish and just destroy. I think like 10 minutes. It was insane.
Time under tension, like his movement short,
Yeah.
like not him. Yeah, he's short, but like movement quality, like he's hammering that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that ring muscle up workout was the only reason he didn't make it past semifinals too, because he got like no reps for no reason.
Yeah.
That was so stupid. Do you guys remember that? Did you watch that?
Yeah. I think it was his very first ring muscle up too.
Yeah.
I think he had to do like 2 or 3 extra.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm not saying that because I like him. I'm saying it because, like, I'm like, he did it like perfect. How did he get no reps?
Yeah, that's the biggest issue with judging. I think at those levels is like it's really hard to be impartial. Like, I can even think about when I refed like kids basketball. Like, if I had a parent from one team really chirping at me, like it would make me more inclined to call something against them. Like, just like subconsciously.
Yeah.
So like I couldn't imagine like being a volunteer judge, immersed in it, and say you don't like Taylor Self, like because of him being very open for voting for Trump or whatever that might be how he speaks.
Yep.
And being like Taylor, like, yep, I'm definitely going to be watching this, and like you're just so much more quick to pull the trigger on. That's not a rep. That's not a rep. That's not a rep. It's like everyone else is getting away with it.
Yeah. 100%.
But if you knew you were able to get fired and you were paid for that position appropriately, you wouldn't have as much bias. There's still bias.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody's getting fired over it, so they're not really worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the whole CrossFit world, dude, just needs to be, I don't want to say more professionalized, because I think that, Joe, you made a good point one time, like, can it even handle being professionalized, right? But like,
I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, I don't
either.
As
bad as it sounds.
Yeah.
It's going to take away from the mystique of it. Again, I'm old school. I love the fact that we used to say CrossFit smoky like cheap crack and like turning 7s into 10s. And like, I like that shit because it's a little rough, but like, so is what we do. And it's not pretty all the time. And it's sometimes looks a little squirrely, but you can't have both.
Who do you think, if CrossFit, like if the worst scenario happens where CrossFit is just done, who do you think takes over? Do you think that Rogue is the thing then?
I think Rogue will be a thing, but I honestly think that there's so many people that used to work for CrossFit that still love it more than anything that will step up and drive this thing forward.
I'd say whoever has the most money into it, whoever has the most money indebted into CrossFit to keep them alive. I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
but they're going to be the ones to step up.
I wonder, dude.
That for sure is financially I think Rogue. I mean, Bill and Katie for sure could. I think they're risking their financial livelihood. But with Greg and everyone that's positioned the way they are, I think the torch gets seamlessly passed so easily. Yeah, there's going to be like a bit of a reset. Like, we'll go back a decade's worth and how this thing's going to get momentum all over again. But it's hard to see really how it's going to go, but I'm not really worried anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, does Loudon Live, are they only CrossFit?
To my knowledge.
Loudon Live? Like
Loudon Live. Yeah.
Dude, I want to say that they used to do other sporting events.
Like, I feel like they're pretty big for how much they've put into the sport, where it'd be hard pressed where if CrossFit fell through, they wouldn't be trying to put something together with other organizations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's definitely enough competitions. Like, the games could go away and it's honestly not a problem. Mm-hmm. Like, there's Rogue, there's Dubai, there's Wadapalooza, there's NorCal Classic. Like, there's enough stuff that they can make the money. It's just going to take time for other players to then surface to them push the ecosystem.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really curious to see. Dude, real quick, what do you guys think about Dave's apology?
Yeah, fine. What's he supposed to say?
Right, yeah. Logan?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I didn't see – he said what he said, but it's like the timing was weird with it, right? But also, when is there not weird timing with what happened? Yeah. So him putting something out there is more than what CrossFit's put out there.
Yeah.
I wish there was almost a video. It would have gave a little bit more like way to feel out versus everyone takes what he wrote and like he didn't mean that. He probably doesn't care. Or blessing. Like it would have, I think, him just being in front of a camera being like, hey, like this is how I perceived it. This is the word. Again, definitions are super important. Like when I say blessing, I meant like he did not completely forbid us from doing it. Like that's what the term blessing means to me. Not like, oh, I absolutely love this idea and it's the best option ever. And like, yes, first choice, blessing. Like definitions are super important. And when you let things just be black and white, you let people interpret loosely and it just gets messy.
Yeah, Greg knows that from his tweets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people just take any things and they interpret how they want, and the small people that think they're a mass population take over people's minds.
Yeah.
Yep.
The mind virus. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. Well, with that, boys, thanks so much for hopping on live with me today. This one was fun.
I get to go blow up my midline now.
Yeah. What's the word?
At good intensity.
Yeah, max intensity. 24-minute AMRAP, you go, I go. Partner A will do 15 toe to bar and then 10 cal row. And then you're going to go through 10 rounds, so 5 rounds each. You go, I go. And then the remaining time, it switches to an AMRAP of 10 cal row, 20 sit-ups.
Wow, that seems hard.
I mean, you're not doing a hero WOD today?
We're going to do it on Saturday.
How could you?
I woke up this morning. I was like, am I going to get anything for this? I'm like, we're doing it Saturday.
No,
Yeah.
How could you? You're not doing it on the day it's supposed to be done.
I know.
And Logan is also military, you jackass.
I know.
All right, well, cool. You guys have fun. Logan, you got to get back to work.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Cool.
Cool.
Good luck
See you
at
guys.
work. See you, boys.